So our next project is going to be to make what's called a complex tessellation. And tessellation is just a fancy word for a never-ending pattern. And you guys can see I kind of have the start of that here. This is a basic tessellation. So we're going to start off making something that looks like this, and then we're going to turn it into something like this with the knife tool. This is a more complex tessellation where I've taken my shapes and I've cut it up with a knife tool, which is exactly what you all are going to do, although maybe not bald eagles that look like chickens and American flags. So let me show you how to get started. We're going to do this part first. I'm going to come up to File and Create New. Let's call this project, your last name, Complex Tessellation. Tessellation has 2 S's and 2 L's. Okay, we want to make sure that we are always working on a letter-sized piece of paper that is measured in inches, not points. And this is really your choice if you're going to want it to be portrait or landscape. I'm going to select portrait and hit create. So here I have my blank artboard. So tessellation means a never-ending pattern, which means that we need to make these pieces that are going to fit together like a puzzle, and then they can be repeated endlessly. So see, I can take this, copy and paste it, and tack it on right here on the side, and I could go on and on and on in any direction. So we're going to start by making our own. First, you're going to take your pen tool, your rectangle tool, and on layer 1, you're going to hold down Shift and create a square, a perfect square. It's important that it has to be a perfect square and that you hold down Shift, because a normal rectangle will not work for this. And I'll go ahead and make mine really big so that you all can see what I'm doing pretty easily. You can make yours as big or as small as you would like. Small is better. Next, I'm going to lock this layer because this is just going to be my template. And then I'm going to create a new layer. And this is going to be the layer. Layer number 2 is where I'm going to draw my lines for my new tessellation. So to do that, I'm going to need my pencil tool. Now this project's going to have a lot of copying and pasting. So remember that to copy, your shortcut is going to be Control-C, and to paste, your shortcut is going to be Control-V, as in Victor. So to start with this, pick a corner of your square to start. I'm going to start at the top left, and I'm going to draw down to the bottom left corner. So I'm just going to click and drag with my pencil tool, and I'm going to draw a crazy line. Whoop, and then I'm going to make sure it ends right there in the bottom corner. Okay, now for a tessellation to work, I need to have this line be on both sides of my square. So what I'm going to do is hit Control-C to copy it, Control-V to place it, to paste it. Then I'm going to take my selection tool and line it up right on the other side of my square. It might take a little bit of patience to do that. Now I'm going to take my pencil tool once again, and now I'm going to do the same thing from the top left to the top right. So I'm going to draw a line that connects, Control-C to copy it, Control-V to place it, and then use the selection tool to move it into position. So at this point, you should have a square in the background, and then kind of a funky free-drawn square that you have on top of it on layer 2. Once you have all 4 lines, we do not need layer 1 anymore, so I'm going to select it on my layer palette and click delete, which just leaves me with my 4 lines. Now right now this appears to be a vector because I don't see any gaps. However, it is not, because my lines are just still 4 individual lines to be selected. So even though they appear to form one vector, they're 4 lines and not one vector. And that's made apparent when I try to fill it. It looks very cool, but it doesn't work to fill to fill the shape that I've created. But that doesn't mean that that's impossible. So what I'm going to do is select all 4 lines, and you can do that by either holding down Shift and clicking on them individually, or you could do the fast way that I like, and that is to use your selection tool to draw an invisible rectangle around your entire artboard, and then everything inside that invisible rectangle is selected. Once all 4 lines are selected, you're going to right click on it. And we're going to select the word join. Now this is important. Joining means that we are gluing these lines together to make them a vector instead of 4 individual lines. Grouping means that when I select one of the lines, I want to select all of the lines, but they still maintain their individuality as 4 different lines. So we want join because we want to tell the computer that we want to turn these 4 lines into one vector. So right click and then hit join. Now you'll see that when I fill in my funky square, it now fills in completely with a color because now it's a vector and not 4 lines. So we'll keep it filled in with black. So at this time, you should resize your piece to whatever size you're going to want for this assignment, and go ahead and place it wherever you want on your artboard. Okay, then you're going to copy it by pressing Control C and paste it by pressing Control V. Change the color of it to pretty much any color, and then line it up to match. Zoom in so you can see better. Okay, you don't want any white spaces, and that can be really challenging to do. Let's change the color of this one too. Purple and pink. Okay, if you do have small, subtle white gaps that just will not go away, no matter how you move your pieces around, that's okay. I'll show you how to fix those at the end. So at this point, if I wanted to make a basic tessellation, what I could do is select both of these and then just copy and paste them and slide them into place until they cover the entire artboard. And I mean the entire artboard. Like, you want to go off the edges so that there's absolutely no white showing. And then instead of just repeating it like this, when we go down, we want to shift everything over. And they should all still fit together like perfect puzzle pieces. So it's kind of like we have a very unique checkerboard going on. And now that I have this, I can copy and paste the entire rows, slide them into place if they'll slide for me. Can rearrange them so that I don't have to keep copy and pasting so much. Then I can copy and paste it all again and slide it all down here. All right, so this is what we would consider to be a very basic tessellation. I could continue to copy and paste and keep going, but at this point I'm actually not going to do that. This is actually just going to be part 1, and then in part 2 we're going to turn it into something a little bit more complex with using the knife tool. So save your work here and then watch the part 2 video to see what to do next.